Hi there, my name is Mmanakana, your partner in gaining competitive advantage and the only possibilitarian. Today, the category is breaking the rules. Yes, it's all about creating travel, being a travel maker. It's all about challenging the status quo, reforming organizational culture. It's all about deciding to wear your hair differently tomorrow. It's all about breaking those legacy systems. Yes, I'm all about encouraging you to break the rules, because strategic rule breaking, it's often a thing that needs to be done if you are to maintain relevance, if you are to adapt, if you are to gain competitive advantage, if you are to maintain relevance. You can't always be holding on to the fact that you've been doing these things for the past 150 years. Well, come back to 2023. Sometimes you need to break the rules. That's what it takes. And today, that's what this is all about. Breaking the rules. Now, it seems like a common pattern that the person who breaks the rules gets praised to the skies. That moment when someone does something no one has ever done before and enters the history books, such as taking your seat on the bus like Rosa Parks, or picking up grains of salt like Mahatma Gandhi, or crossing border river like Julius Caesar. Even though there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come, to paraphrase French writer Gustave Aimard, it requires definitive action to bring about the effects of such an idea into the real world. And such an action is more often than not an action that breaks the rules. Now, rule-breaking heroism should nevertheless be taken with a pinch of salt, for there's an obvious survivor bias. Less successful rule breakers don't find their place in the history books. Take Fritz Wandel. He called for a national strike in Germany a day after Hitler came to power, and only workers from his hometown of Mosingen followed his call. Wandel went on to survive the Third Reich in prison and worked in the Mosingen cemetery in 1945. Now, the moment you break the rules, the moment you challenge the status quo, the moment you decide to practice brave leadership and courageous culture, you don't know if breaking the rules will break the system or break your life, just like in the case of Wandel. But that shouldn't discourage you from breaking the rules and practicing a new way of thinking, doing, and being, from being disruptive, right? That shouldn't discourage you. If anything, I am here. My aim today is to try and inspire you to get into the habit of breaking the rules, because sometimes what needs to be done for your organization to thrive is to break the legacy systems, right? Is to start doing things a new way, right? We can't always be stuck on the fact that we've been doing things this way. How about you did it differently? Perhaps the reason why your team morale is low is because the way you're doing things is so 150 years ago. You need to come back to today, to the present moment, right? So I'm here to encourage you, to try and inspire you today to break the rules and challenge the status quo and practice brave leadership and courageous culture. And I know that oftentimes when people, think about reforming organizational culture, changing the way things are done, practicing a new way of leadership, it's not like you as a leader, you do not want to do that. It's like any kind of goal. It's not like we don't want to achieve great things. We want to thrive. We want to achieve great things. But what often happens, what often springs to mind, the mind of a leader, when they think about changing the way of doing things, reforming organizational culture, disrupting, becoming innovative, reforming culture in the workplace and all that, what springs to their mind is this question, or rather concern. Will the team be willing to abandon their old ways of doing things and embrace this new way of doing things? Will the organization be willing to reform itself and adopt? Another concern is, will the market respond? You could be thinking about rebranding, but you're so afraid, you're so concerned about what the market will adapt to the new brand, if the market will follow you. If you decided to wear your hair differently, will they follow you? Will you still be embraced? Right? And today I would like to, there's a business case that I believe could actually solve that for you, answer that question for you, so that You can start being free and okay with breaking the rules, because strategic rule breaking leads to innovation and be disruptive and staying in business and getting competitive advantage and adapting. Sometimes for you to adapt quickly would mean that you will need to be disruptive. You will need to break the rules, right? And not in a more causing trouble way, but in a way that is strategic and in a way that is necessary. Because we're all about practicing brave leadership and courageous culture. We're all about doing the necessary hard things. We're all about transforming in a new way of thinking, doing, and being. And the business case that I'm talking about is the business case that happened in 2007 when an absolute newcomer to the smartphone industry, Steve Jobs, decided to equip his first phone, the iPhone, with an interface that was never used up until that point, putting his money on the touch screen instead. Now, Steve Jobs was no different from you. It's no different from you. The very concern that you're having about whether the market will respond, whether the team will be willing to abandon the culture that they've been used to, the cutthroat culture, for these more empathic and these, collaborative culture. The same concern that you have is the same concern that internet pioneer Mark Andreessen actually heard when Steve Jobs wanted to launch the first iPhone, right? Just before Steve Jobs launched the first iPhone, Mark Andreessen asked him, will the users be willing to give up what they've known up until that point for something that they've never used before? This is the same question. This is the same concern that you have. Will the users, will the market, will the team, will the organization be willing to abandon the old ways, be willing to give up what they know, be willing to leave the old ways for something new, some new ways of doing things? The same question, will the users be willing to abandon the phones that they've been using up until that point for something that they've never used before? And on top of that, it's an iPhone, it's expensive, it's premium priced. Will they be willing to abandon this phone that they've been using for something new and something that is new, even premium priced? Right now, the iPhone 15 is coming up and people are lined up for it. So the same concern that Mark Andreessen had is the same concern that you have. Will the market respond? Will the team be willing to reform and all that? So the answer that Steve Jobs heard is the answer that I feel could actually inspire you to continue breaking the rules and challenging the status quo and being more disruptive and innovative, right? Steve Jobs answered the question, will the users be willing to abandon, to give up what they've known for up until that point for something that they've never used before? He answered that question with this. He said, they will learn. And guess what? We learned. We've learned, isn't it? So if you're concerned, your concerns and questions, just know that we will learn. The team will learn. The market will learn. We always learn. It's in our nature to learn, to adapt. We are that adaptive. So don't worry about whether or not you'll be embraced if you decide to wear your hair differently tomorrow, if you decide to speak differently to your team, if you decide to come up with a new way of doing things with your team, if it's an opposite of how maybe they've known you to be this ruthless, cutthroat leader, and tomorrow you decide to be this authentic and empathetic leader, and they will learn, they will embrace, they will reform with time. Just like we've learned to use touchscreen phone, just like today people are lined up to pay a premium price for iPhone 15. People and the market will adapt. Your team will adapt. Your industry will adapt. The market will adapt. So as you go out there and practice brave leadership and courageous cultures, if you go out there and break the rules, I would like you to remember one thing. I would like you to remember that not only do we learn, not only will the market learn, not only will the team reform and learn and adapt, I would like you to remember that you can do the hard things. Until next time.